Hey guys, it's Austin and Jeanette.
Welcome to our channel, where you can learn all about becoming debt-free and living your best life.
Today, we're talking about the full January budget and end-of-year budgeting.
If you're new here, consider subscribing. Here it comes. All right.
How's it going, guys?
Welcome to Monday. I can't believe it's the new year. It's like insane.
Yeah.
And I'm very excited to do this full budget. It's going to be insane. It's the full year. Okay, so, are you ready? Let's just jump into it. Okay, so, we're going to do a full January budget, and we're also going to do the end of year recap, and we're going to talk about why credit really doesn't matter. I know, that's an obsession for most Americans because I can score this, and you have to have a credit score to get this, and blah, blah, blah. Talk about why it doesn't matter. So, for the first thing, we're going to talk about the newsletter. So, here we go. We're going to get into that first screen. If Mom can find it.
Oh, just 1 second. We're gonna populate the screen for you. Here we go.
So, now, as you can see, this is the email that we got this morning. So, you're going to take your week 3 newsletter and click on it, and then this lovely page is going to come up. Okay, so we're talking about the full budget. So this is kind of the write-up on how to do it. So if you don't see the live video, then you can come back and read this and kind of get through it. Okay, so we're going to talk about the worksheets. So the worksheets are these 3 budget worksheets, and that's the first thing that we're going to get into. So pull up your week 3 budget worksheets. Okay, so this is the first form. Now, this is going to be your monthly cash flow plan. I know it says that, but it's actually your monthly budget, right? This is how you're going to do your budget every month. So, I like to do it on paper the first couple of times because then I can, subtract and add and all that other stuff. So, the first thing we're going to do is put in our monthly take-home pay. That is after anything that comes out automatically, your taxes, your health care, whatever comes out of your check automatically. This is what you take home. This is what you can actually spend stuff on. So if your health insurance already comes out, I don't even put that in my medical or health because it's something that's already coming out of my check before it comes to me. Okay, so like we said, we're going to do our 10%, and it has the percentages right here. So 10% of your tithes and offerings first, and then we do our saving. So if you're still doing an emergency fund, that first $1,000 or your first month's rent or mortgage, this is where you're going to start to save for that, right? And so as we're building that, it's only going to be 10 to 15% at the beginning until you can afford to put more in there, right? And then we also talked about our debt snowball last week and all of our debts, and that's also in here, but that's at the end. So then we're going to talk about our 4 walls like we talked about before, which is food, clothing, transportation, and housing. So we want to put all of our mortgage in here and any taxes. So sometimes that also is included in your mortgage, but sometimes it's not. And then your association dues if that's something that you have to have depending on where you live. And then your food and your groceries because you obviously have to have food. You don't necessarily have to have restaurants. So I suggest if you're you want to do this with gazelle intensity, that you don't put very much in restaurants. Sometimes there are emergencies or you're just not feeling it, you're having one of those days where you have to get a McFlurry from McDonald's. I get it. But budget that, okay? So if you know that you might have one of those days, put it in here so that way it's not unexpected expenses. And also clothing, like we talked about. Adults, you might not need any clothes. In my condition, which is pregnancy, I need new clothes. But my husband, he doesn't need any clothes at this moment. My child, she's 2, and she is bleeding she's growing all the time. So sometimes she needs new clothes based on season because I don't have any for her. And then also cleaning and laundry, you obviously need some Tide Pods or whatever you need for that. And then transportation, you want to make sure you have gas, and then your repairs for your tires, anything that you know is going to come up. So that's what you want to start with, right? So you want to make sure you stick within these recommended percentages as well. And then you're just going to go through that. What I recommend is taking your budget from your quick start budget that you made and putting all that stuff in here first. And then also from December, right, you're going to have a lot of stuff that you're going to put in here that you can kind of look at. But also won't necessarily be an affected like budget category. Like obviously you're not going to spend Christmas presents in January. That's not a thing right now. Your utilities might be different because you might have had a lot of people at your house for the holidays, or it might be a lot less because you went somewhere for the holidays. So that's something you need to take into account. Your mobile and your phone bill, your internet and cable, put all of those things in here and just list them one by one. What is your water bill? Is it included in your rent? When I lived in Virginia, my water bill was included in my rent and it just came quarterly. So I would save a little bit every paycheck for that, but I wasn't saving very much. It was like $10 or $15, and I only had to pay if I went over. So I was only paying sometimes nothing. So just think about stuff like that. And then Star Wars just came out, which I'm obsessed with, so I definitely have that in the entertainment budget for last month. And then toiletries, cosmetics, hair. If you see these little blue envelope things, those are things that we recommend through Dave Ramsey of things that you need to put in envelopes, right? So these are the funds that you have to put in envelopes. So we'll go back up to the top where we have groceries and restaurants. Once you're done with your groceries budget, you're done. But if you need groceries, like if you aren't meal planning or you're just spending money at restaurants, this is where you need to take a look at that kind of stuff so that way you stay within budget, or you need to adjust your budget accordingly. Gas, you need gas, so I don't put this in an envelope. I just swipe my card for that because it's just something that happens every month. It's like my rent or something. I spend about the same amount every month because I don't go that many places. Unless I plan on going on a vacation or a trip, that's the only time I'll add more to this gas budget. But repairs and tires, I'll put that in a separate envelope so that way I can plan for it for a big one, right? So like, I know we need tires in the Mini Cooper, so we've been putting that aside. We don't use the envelopes for that. We have a separate bank account for that. So we put a little bit over into our repairs and tires portion of that bank account, knowing that that's what that's for. So we're saving money for that. It's called a sinking fund, but we'll get more into that later. And then we also talk about our debt snowball, right? So then this is where you put all of those things in there. So I suggest putting the main, like the totals on this column over here out in the nowhere zone, and then put what is actually your car payments right here, the minimums. And until you are done with your emergency fund, just pay minimums on these things, but pledge to create no more debt. And again, if you guys send me a picture of your cut up cards, I will send you a gift card. I'm sending one out tomorrow, and I'm so very excited because I put it in an envelope, I wrote the note, and I'm ready to send it out because I'm ready for this person to change her life. I know she's going to. I know she's going to be amazing at it, and I'm very excited for her. Okay, so that's kind of what you're going to do for this one. So I just wanted to kind of walk you guys through it. Subscriptions, that is literally anything, right? So I have a subscription to my cloud storage, which is $1.99 a month. And then I've also got a subscription to my credit check, which I think is, I don't know how much that is. How much is that, babe?
It's $12 a month.
$12 a month.
Just for monitoring.
For credit monitoring. And then I've got another subscription for, what is those subscriptions? Like Hulu, Netflix,
Spotify, Google Music.
Yeah,
all
Google
those
Music.
Things.
All those things would go in that category.
Yep, and I just wanted to touch on this. You're going to revisit this once a week as you go, just to touch up and say, hey, like, this is what I spent, and just start filling in those blanks. Yeah, so when you go in, you're going to be able to sit down and say, hey, this is how much I got left, this is where I'm at. And this is a great form to start, but you really want to, just keep track of this form, and then maybe put every dollar or something like that, where you can keep track of all your spreadsheets in one place. If you're more of a paper person or an Excel spreadsheet kind of person, that works too. Just make sure wherever you're doing it, you're keeping all of your stuff in the same place, so when you go, it's not hard for you to find these things or actually make time to sit down and visit your budget, because it's all about convenience and like quickness to do this, or else it's going to be a chore and a task, and no one really wants that.
So I would also suggest keeping your receipts, Because sometimes when I go to Target, I'll buy clothing for the baby, I'll buy diapers for the baby, and I'll buy something random, right? Cleaning supplies. Those are different categories in our budget. So I either take a picture of the receipt or I keep the receipt until I'm able to consolidate our budget at the end of the week, so that when I see Target in my bank account, it's not just I have no idea what I spend at Target. It's okay, this goes here, this goes here, this goes here, and they're all different funds. And then also do the same thing with Amazon or Smith's or whatever. Wherever if you buy more than one category at one spot, keep your receipts so that way you can do it at the end of the week. Don't keep them for a month because nobody ever wants to go through and be like, what did I buy at the beginning of the month for whatever.
Every month it's me asking Jeanette what these miscellaneous like transactions are that have like a name behind them, like I don't know, PayPal or Amazon. Like we need to sit down probably 20 minutes trying to figure out like what it is, and then we're like, do we cancel our cards because this is fraudulent? And then we're like, oh wait, no, it was just me. It was me in the beginning, or yeah. So
I forgot to keep my receipt. I forgot to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not perfect. We're just on this journey also, right? So we're trying to tell you the tips and tricks that we use and the mistakes we make, so that way you don't make those mistakes as well. So the next form that we're going to talk about is the allocated budget form. So let me pull that up. So the allocated budget form is kind of like saying, okay, I have 2 pay periods, and then we're going to talk about how much my income is for those pay periods and how I can pay stuff and budget it appropriately so that way one side of the pay period is not more heavy than the other. So the first couple are going to be hard because you're going to be trying to save money at the end of the pay period for the next month so that way you have money for your rent sometimes. But girl, you got this. Or boy, you got this. Homie, you got this. Whoever you are.
We got it.
Friend, you got this. So this is what you do. So I get paid once a month. Austin gets paid twice a month. So our pay periods we're going to put from the 1st to the 15th, and then from the 15th to the 30th. So that's what I'll do, and I'll put all of our income, all of my incomes rather, and then his income for the first period, and then his income in the second period. And then we'll take 10% out of the first period, and then 10% of the second period, and pay tithes with it because it's 10% of our monthly income, right? And then we do the same thing for savings. So we'll take 10% of the big half, and then 10% of the second half, and put that towards our emergency fund. Because right now we're saving for our 3 to 6 month emergency fund. We actually pay our mortgage out of the first, so that could be you or it could not be you. When we lived in Virginia, it was everything came out of the first of the month. Our mortgage, our electricity, our water, our gas, everything came out of the first, and then we had all this money in the second, and we weren't really managing it well. So we just blow the entire second half of the month's money, and then be tight for the first half. This is so you don't have to do this. So that this way you have a plan, so that way you can say, okay, electricity, I'm going to need to budget electricity for the last half, water, trash, for the next month, so that way I am prepared and I'm not caught off guard when this comes and I don't have any money for anything.
The great part about this is at the end of the year, you can look back at these documents and you can create sinking funds and determine averages of what your annual expenses on the electricity and such look like, and so you can basically save each month for that. So keep track of these, and yeah. Back to Jeanette.
So a sinking fund is basically a fund that you use for a specific purpose, right? So our sinking funds kind of are like, all right, we're going to go on vacation. I'm going to make a fund in my bank account just for this. And this is like that money allocated to that. So we'll put a little bit in there every month, a little bit in there every month. And it's like sinking into a big pile of money.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
So for example, like if our goal was $1,200 at Christmas, then we would just sink $100 each month into that fund.
Right.
And so at Christmas we would have that money, and we wouldn't have to manipulate our budget more at Christmas.
Right. So in every dollar you can do that, or I like to do it, somebody said they like to do it on paper, just so they know, like he was an older guy, boomer status, but he liked to take it on paper and just write down, okay, in this bank account I've got this much for this much for this, and this much for this, and then he'd have his total at the bottom, so that way it was on paper for him. We just do it in every dollar. You can also do it on an Excel spreadsheet if that's easier for you. Just whatever works for you, because it's not about how you do it, it's about doing it, right?
Yep.
Alright, so then we have the rest of the things, and you just break it down. And if it's If it doesn't make sense, just shoot us a message and we'll walk through it with you personally. Then we also have this is everything you put in your first budget. So you just put how much you think you can afford to put in those categories budgeted per pay period, and then that's what it looks like. You also have your debts down here. It's all the same categories as before. And then we'll talk about how much of your money should go where, and are you actually hitting those goals. So this is just an example, these recommended percentages. This is not set in stone. This is just to stick with a good average of how much that is. And so you take the big categories of housing, utilities, food, and then you'll scroll up and then just add them all together, right? So this entire category of housing, this entire category of utilities, you'll add them all together. And you should have already added it up here in your monthly cash flow plan of this total, right? And then you can see what the percentage is supposed to be. So let's say you made $1,000 a month. 10% of that would be $100. So you would know based on this, how much it's supposed to be. So you wouldn't want to go, if I made $1,000 a month, I wouldn't want to go over $350 for my housing. If I'm going over $350 a month, then I'm living too expensively. I need to find out a way to lower that. Does that mean getting a roommate? Does that mean moving in a house with 5 roommates? I don't know. Whatever that looks like for you. But think about that. Does that mean downsizing? We downsized our house from Virginia to here because it was way too big of a house for, not necessarily for our income, but for our lifestyle, for what we want to do in life. So here we are around that 25% mark if you included utilities with that. So we're like way low, and I love it because it makes us more flexible and able to save more money at the same time. So these are just things that you could do to try and, just lower your monthly expenses and just kind of take a look at what those percentages are. Then it also says that you don't want to be spending more than 10% on debts. Hold on. I just want to scroll all the way down. On debts. So that's something you also want to take a look at. How much are you paying towards your debt each month? If your debt, including your cars, student loans, other credit cards, is more than that, then maybe you should take a look at definitely paying those off. All right. So then the next thing that we're going to talk about is kind of your year in review. And that takes into account everything that happened throughout the year that you had to pay for. Some of them are like monthly things that you're going to have to pay for, and some of them are not monthly things you're going to have to pay for. But these are things that you need to take a look at. And then Austin's going to go through that on his yearly review of your budget. And it's going to be like the whole thing, right? And so that's, if you go back to your newsletter, this is the end of year budget. Click sheet right here. And then this is your end of year budget review.
Alright guys, so this is the end of the year. This is the time where we can sit down and we can reflect on all the things that happened during the year. And one of those things we can reflect on, and most people don't reflect on it, is their budget and what they spent money on and what they did or didn't cash flow, the heartaches that came with the emergencies, etc., etc. So I just encourage you to take some time, maybe this week or next week, and just reflect on the things that you did this year and take time to jot down maybe some of the expenses you wish you had cash flowed, and also take a time to write down the estimate that you spend on a lot of things like car registration, car insurance, things that are going to happen, oil changes, birthdays. These things are come up every year. But maybe you can even have enough foresight to think, okay, is there going to be any weddings, or am I going to replace my tires, and things like that. So that's just like a helpful tip for you, is just reflect on that. And then my favorite part is cutting back. So I don't like working super extra. Like, I do like side hustles, don't get me wrong, but I don't like wasting all my money away in terms of watching it leave my bank account. So I like to keep track of reevaluating my budget and just kind of like looking at all the things and where they're going. And at this time of the year, I basically sit down and reevaluate all of my things to determine if I'm overspending on them. So we go back to the spreadsheet. So this goes over the true cost of the average subscription services for Americans. Most people underestimate how much is leaving their bank account for subscriptions, but the average person spends around $237 on just subscription services. But those include phones, Wi-Fi, TV, etc. But those are things that you can cut back on especially if you want to save your first emergency fund. These are things that are normally not necessities. They're convenience to you. I understand that, we've deemed Wi-Fi to be a basic human right now, but there's ways you can cut back on those things.
Right. Like, do you really need like the 800 megabit gig blah blah blah? No, you could probably you're not gaming that much. Let's be real. You just Facebooking.
So and you probably use most of your phone for everything. So just take this time to look at these little topics. Not all of them are subscription based. It does go into some bills that people overpay on, which is homeowners or home insurance. And what I mean by that is not homeowners insurance. I mean the service like American Home Shield and things like that, which you could cash flow if you look at.
Like home warranties?
Yeah, home warranties. Sorry. Yeah, so most people can recoup the expenses out of home warranties by just saving $50 a month, and you won't be at a drastic loss if you have an emergency fund. But car insurance, you can always renegotiate that. Music and books, web hosting, if you have that, home security, and all those kind of top things, you can look at your budget and see if you're can maybe renegotiate those things to save you some money to save your emergency fund.
I think we cut out like TV. We had Amazon Prime, but we would split like internet stuff with our roommate. We still don't pay for like all the subscription services for TVs. We split those with family.
You can focus on paying off your phone plan or maybe downgrading your phone. Maybe there's some subscriptions to gaming like Microsoft. Maybe you haven't played Xbox in a while.
Oh yeah, I remember you had that.
I played World of Warcraft. It cost me $15 a month, and that was just a lot of money. And I didn't ever see it after I got married. So
don't let this on me. Plus, you never played it. That's not my fault. I told you to play games sometimes. Sometimes.
Yeah. Maybe you got married. You can stop paying for those dating apps. I don't know. But yeah, those are just a few helpful things for you to relook at and just get your priorities straight, get your budget straight for the next year, and just have a nice clean slate coming in and start saving those monies.
So we actually did this, right? He took a notebook. He went through our entire bank account. Well, actually, he went through our budget because it's on the budget on every dollar every month. So he went through the budget and then wrote down how much we spent every month and wrote down the entire percentages of what we actually spent. And I was like, looking at some of the numbers, I was like, oh man, that's kind of a lot. But then we did the percentages and we were like, oh, that's only 7%. We're still like in the targeted zone. Like we did very good. And I was kind of surprised. And I was like, some months are worse than others. Like the last month, and so we spent more than we normally do on restaurants. But we were still under the food budget. And I was like,
for the year.
For the year, not for the month. Because some months are heavy, some months are not. So that's something you also need to consider. What months are going to be heavier for like travel and family and going out because of different things that are happening. So just keep track of that and kind of put that in your budget. Like right now, I'm already planning for Valentine's Day. I know it's not even January 1st, but I'm thinking about, all right, Annalise is going to have to put stuff in kids' classes. I'm going to have to buy stuff for her teachers. I'm going to have to buy something for this guy.
And if you put it down on paper, like, I literally put down every single month on paper, like, just all 12 months. And then I put down, like, when a birthday was going to happen, when a holiday was going to happen, Valentine's Day, all that stuff. And I realized that, like, there was only 2 months out of the year where I didn't have to budget for someone's birthday or a holiday or something else. And I was like, well, really? Like, I didn't realize it was that consistent of a thing I needed to budget for. And I'm like, oh, cool. So I got 2 months. One of them's January is an empty month where I can just maybe save that $100 or whatever I'm gonna spend on things like that.
Vacation fund.
Yeah.
Date night. Well,
So,
good,
but this is the best part is that like once you start today doing your budget, and a year from now you can sit down again and do a mass like broad overview.
Which is really nice to see. Like, how do we do overall for the year? And that'll like guide us to the next year and say, okay, I know these months are heavy. These are the months that I want to make sure we have enough money for this and that. So it makes your budget easier for the next year because we already know how we spent last year.
Yeah.
Okay, so then the last thing that we want to talk about is why credit doesn't matter. So I know this is a touchy subject for a lot of people, and people are obsessed with credit scores and FICO scores, and that's all you hear about on the radio is credit repair and blah, blah, blah. Why isn't that important, babe?
So there's a lot of reasons why it's not that important. One, it's just a score. And so scores and numbers gamify things a lot, right? And that's the way credit companies separate you from your money, right? There's a lot of different credit places. There's Equifax, there's FICO, there's TransUnion, all those big ones. They keep track of this score. And that score really is just a I love debt score, right? It ranks you based on payment histories, amount of money you can take out, amount of money you have out, and just if you're good at paying or not good at paying, and what does look like. Well, the thing is this, that those scores don't reflect anything except for the amount of debt you can have.
So it doesn't tell me how much money I make?
It doesn't tell you how much money you make.
It doesn't tell you how much money I have?
And it doesn't tell you how much money you have.
It doesn't tell me my net worth?
No. So the kicker is this, that you can rent a car without a credit card. You can buy a house without a credit score, right?
Yeah.
You can do all those things, and you don't need to have a credit score, because what happens is there's plenty of mortgage companies that can do manual underwriting, which is when you just take your statements of a year from your bank, and they evaluate those to determine your actual annual incomes and validate them, and then give you a loan based on manual underwriting, basically validating your yeah. But that's how you obtain a mortgage. But basically what happens is once you start producing debt, you start closing accounts, or accounts stop receiving balances, and your credit score goes down. The only reason we still have a credit score is because we have a mortgage. But after the mortgage is paid off, 6 months after that, you no longer have a credit score.
Right.
But that's fine because you actually have money to your name and net worth.
Right.
So it doesn't like hold a number to you anymore. You'll be buying phones like from T-Mobile and stuff like that without having to go through credit. You just buy them outright. You just buy things not on credit anymore, and you don't need your score at all. I think that's why it doesn't matter. It's just because it's for people who like debt.
Yeah.
So if you don't like debt, you don't like the score.
Right. The game that we're in is not, I want a better credit score. The game that we're in is, I want 0 credit score, so that way people know that I'm about cash. Cash talks, man. Like, if somebody called our loans today, like this is what happened in the housing, the housing crash. That's when banks called out our loans and said, hey, you know what? I'm done with you. I want my money back. I don't care. And they're allowed to do that. It's in the fine print. They're allowed to say, I want my money now. You have 30 days to give me my money, the entire mortgage worth, or get out of the house, or sell it. So people are scrounging around trying to sell their houses, and everybody's selling their houses at the same time, which means nobody's buying houses. And banks are just foreclosing on houses. They just want their money because they're suffering. So I don't want that to happen to me. I want to be able to, one, if that happens again, have the cash to buy a house and then ride the wave back up. And I don't want them to take my house away from me. I feel like I earn this through hard work and dedication and paying it off, and I think that I should be able to keep it. I don't want you to call my loan. I don't have $200,000 in the back of my pocket yet. So that's our next goal, is to build our emergency fund and then pay off our house. That way we don't have to worry about it. It'll be ours.
Yeah. So yeah, man.
The game is not credit.
No.
The game of life. Man, our great grandparents didn't even have credit cards. Credit cards came out in like the 1920s. So they paid it for everything in cash, or they worked for it, they bartered, which is mostly they paid everything in cash. They saved up their money and they bought it. That's what I want to do. That's what I want to teach my kids, because this whole new credit game is a scam.
Yep, and points don't matter.
Nope.
All right, that's the next second biggest topic next to credit scores is points. But I want to also touch base again back on the score. Is there's something you can do to your score that prevents fraud. So the best thing is if you have a 0 credit score and someone takes out credit in your name, you'll obviously know that you didn't open up a credit in your name, and it will be fraudulent, and you can dispute that. But the second thing is that you can freeze your credit score. And a lot of people don't know this, but if you're not taking out any more credit, you can call up TransUnion, you can call up Equifax, and you can put a freeze on your account, and it basically freezes not your score, but it freezes any more credit to be opened in your name. So you have to go through a normally it's like a signed paper. You send in the signed paper and say, I do wish to open this credit in my name, and they'll unfreeze it. But that's just a helpful tip on why credit scores don't matter, and that you can just freeze them, and then it'll prevent you from having identity theft, or you'll notice your identity theft earlier.
Plus, there's another way of just like preventing you from relapsing. It's kind of an addiction.
It's another step from you and your debt.
Right.
So, the whole points thing, anything that gamifies or allows you to be separated from your money is kind of like it's bad for people. Like points don't really matter in terms of or cashback rewards. Those are all things that make you feel excited to be part of something, like, and you just numbers behind it, and it makes you feel like you're winning. But really, percentage rates and points are normally always not in your benefit,
right.
Because we're talking about multi-billion-dollar corporations, and they don't give out money. Like
No.
if you are making cash returns or percentages back. You got to think about that in the grand scheme of what you're actually using it out of.
Yeah. And are you just buying things to buy things because you get points? Or are you buying things because you need them? Like a lot of people waste more money using credit because, like he said, it's gamified. You're taking a step out of it. It's not emotional. You're just buying stuff to buy stuff. It's not worth it to you. So
those are our views on credit scores and percentage rates and
I hope we didn't scare you
gamified points. So I'm excited for this new year coming up. I'm excited just to see how you guys are working through your budgets and the progress you're making and where you're seeing where you can cut back on. I think that we definitely have some things we can cut back on this year.
Yeah.
We don't have any car debt this year. All of our debt was paid off last year, so the no car debt we will save $17,000 in payments. So that's our biggest
year.
Biggest.
That's
thing,
what we've been spending on cars. Which is
we sunk $17,000 in cars last year that we don't have any visibility for.
Nothing to show
for.
Yep. So that's all we have for you today. I know tomorrow's New Year's, and I'm so excited. So I'm going to have a question for you. The question of the day is going to be, what is your 2020 budget goal? I'm going to write that in the thing, too, because I'm very excited to see what yours is. I'll tell you mine if you tell me yours.
See you guys next one.
Night.